Hello, everybody. You are a unique individual with the power to change lives just by being who you are, sharing your wisdom, and telling your story. Welcome, everybody, to Jen's Pen Live, where we find interesting people who make the world a better place and ask them to share their story. Today, we are talking to Leslie Urbas. Welcome, Leslie.
Hi there. Thank you.
Leslie is a registered dietitian and personal trainer with over 12 years experience in mindset dieting, which we're going to have fun talking about. She helps committed food and travel-loving business owners and corporations liberate themselves from excess weight, emotional eating tethers, and disease-inducing patterns so they can live their healthiest, high-energy lives, abundantly guilt and shame-free, with a margarita in hand. Her goal is to free the world of the diet mentality and to teach us all how to live free, full lives. Thank you, Leslie, for your work and your mission.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me in your work and mission, for sure.
Oh, thank you so much. So let's just dive into it. So we now know what you do. How did you get there?
Yeah, so that's great. A great question. So I would have to say, how did I get to be a dietitian I was really young when I think I was called to be one. If people use that term, I guess called to, directed to.
Absolutely.
Right. I was like, maybe in third grade was the first time I was really interested in food. But in sixth grade, it was definitely won over. You know, in third grade, I think it was around the time when my mom had told me I couldn't have candy. I needed the apple. And I was like, why? And she said, well, it's healthier for you. And I was like, okay, why? And she's like, I don't know, it just is. And I was like, well, that's not a reason, right?
I need to find out why I can't have candy.
Exactly. So then in sixth grade, I think I got obsessed with calories in some weird way. The girls in my class kind of became obsessed with like who looked better, who was skinny, and all that kind of stuff. I went to, I don't know if that's young. I hear now it's even younger for girls. But to me, now that I think back, I was like, that's kind of a young age. But I think that's when I decided I wanted to be a dietitian. But the story got compounded when I joined my high school. I'm from St. Louis, Missouri. And in St. Louis, there's a lot of Catholic schools that are all girl or all guy schools. It's very common. It's not a boarding school, but I did go to an all girl school called Ursuline Academy. And within,
Ursuline, really? We have an Ursuline here too. Go ahead.
Yeah, all over, right? Well, anyways, within the first week, my softball coach actually told me that she wouldn't really play me and probably never play me on varsity because I was too big. Mind you, I was a healthy weight. On any BMI scale, I was 100% healthy weight. I just wasn't skinny. I wasn't stick skinny. I was a normal, healthy individual. And maybe 5 to 6 days later, a girl in one of my classes, we had a lot of classes together, and they sat us most of the time in alphabetical order. So we always sat next to each other and we'd have a good time. We'd laugh and stuff when we could talk. And so I asked her if she wanted to hang out over the weekend, right? It's a new school, new people, want to meet new people. And she said, yeah, I mean, I really like you, but I mean, you're not going to fit in with the cool people because you're not skinny enough. So it was another one of those like, oh, okay, cool. Now there were not skinny people in the cool kid group, but within that first week, that really hit me. I'd like to say that would have given me like an eating disorder or something. It did not. So I'm really glad it didn't. But it did spiral me, I think, to be a little bit more obsessed with my weight. And then my sophomore year, when I was 16 years old, I decided I was going to wake up every morning at 5 a.m. and work out. My mom actually did it with me. We did like walk away the pounds tapes in the front room of our house. And we had 2 small cats, so she would play with the cats as well. And I kind of ran in place, jogged in place, did some things too to make my workout more challenging. But since that day, I've worked out every single day, unless I was having, you know, a C-section because I had 2 kids or, you know, something along those lines. And I think all of that really just solidified me becoming a dietitian. And then throughout the years, you know, I learned so much about dieting, right? So much about dieting. Like you learn about Weight Watchers and you learn about keto and you learn about Atkins. And back then Atkins was more of the thing, but there was something else. Oh, like there was like a little shake you could take before you went to bed and it curbed you from, and that one was like totally false. They actually had a lot of people sue them and get money back or something, you know? But then Beachbody became really prevalent, and now there's like a million things, right? You can find 20,000 different MLMs out there that'll sell you the same supplement in a different way. And I did try a lot of those things to try to get my weight down. But when I went to college to be a dietitian, And I was still a healthy weight, but higher than I would have liked to be. I was like, I need to change this. So I actually mindset dieted myself before it was a thing, but I didn't know it was a thing until recently when it has become it. And after joining the military and working in the government system for a long time, I decided I needed to work on my own because I couldn't help them as much as I knew they needed the help because I needed more sessions. And that's kind of how I developed into my business, because I don't want you to be bogged down with a piece of paper diet. I want you to learn how to eat for you, live, travel, enjoy your food, and be the size you want to be.
That is awesome. Like I mean, first off, I'm so glad you didn't get an eating disorder from that, because a lot of children do. It's really, that's sad. I have a similar background as far as all girls Catholic school. Notre Dame. But
Okay.
yeah, we had similar things. That is, I love this idea of mindset dieting. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah. So to me, it's pieces, right? So I need to discuss what a typical diet is first. So a typical diet is, this is how you eat. Okay, here's your instructions. This is your calories. This is your macros. These are your points. This is your amount of fat grams. This is your amount of carbs. This is your amount of, they give you something to follow, right? Follow these portion controlled containers. Drink this shake 3 times a day. Eat this meal. Eat 5 of these snacks and then have 1 meal a day, right? Whatever kind of diet that you've heard or had somebody sell you before, they come to you with, this is the solution, right?
Right.
It's not how mindset dieting works, okay? The solution is different because every one of us is different. So it takes into effect, like, what is your history? What's your family history? What's your personal history, you know? And then the next piece is, what's your diet history? How much has your metabolism changed? How much did we wreck our metabolism that we may have to regain back? A lot of people throw in hormonal things. I don't want to knock that there could be something hormonal, because there could be, but a lot of times it's really just reclaiming that metabolism. And then what is your life like, right? So we try to make the diet fit our lifestyle. If you have to travel for work once a week, you may not be able to keep up with a certain diet solely because you have a 24 to 48 hour period where you may not be in control of your diet, right? And then that just makes you feel bad. It's like a shame and guilt cycle, thus increasing weight, right? So let's look at your life. And then the last piece is, what do you want it to look like? Like, do you want pizza every Friday night? Or is it that you really are like, I know pizza's unhealthy, I just don't want it in my diet, but I'm having a hard time getting it out? Okay. What do you actually physically want? And I take all those 4 pieces and create what you need in order to mindset diet. It's a shift of your beliefs in your brain about dieting, right? Most people have some sort of belief about diet. It's hard. It has to be done. In order to lose weight, you have to do it. You have to beat yourself up when you get on the scale. The number on the scale is like the worth. The size of your jeans matters. If you have a closet full of clothes that you can't fit into anymore, you're fat, right? Even if it was like, you're still at a healthy weight, you're just a bigger size, right?
Yeah.
So all of those things that you believe about dieting, about fitness, about nutrition, I can't lift heavy weights because I'll look like a man, or any of those things that happen, or I can't do cardio because cardio will destroy my muscle, or I have knee issues, so I can't do any of those. So losing weight is more complex for me. Whatever you have in that belief system has to be changed. And that's where mainstream dieting kind of goes a little bit astray. We don't address those problems. We mask them with your piece of paper. Here's your instructions, follow them. If you don't follow them, we support you. We want to help you get out of it, but it's still a shame and guilt cycle that you keep completing. And that's what mindset dieting takes out, is we erase that shame and guilt cycle.
That is so important. And like, honestly, you really are making the world a better place, because women especially, but I know men too, have such problems with their body and their self-image. And they just beat themselves up, and there's so much suffering mentally that happens that doesn't have to happen. So thank you for doing that.
Yeah, agreed. I think people, beat themselves up way too much over it,
Yeah.
It's crazy, like, why are we comparing so much? If we were all supposed to be the same size, we'd probably all come out the same size.
Right? We're supposed to be different, guys. So tell me about your business, your practice.
Yeah, so that's what I started, I started all online. I started right before COVID in 2020. I kind of started at the end of 2019, but I really had no clue as to what I was doing. So then I hired my first coach and kind of figured it out. I'm a dietitian and a personal trainer. I have lots of experience in nutrition and fitness, but not running a business right away. So I knew I needed something. I just really didn't want to go get a business degree. So I went the other way, right? Let's get some coaching help, right? So I'm always a claim for help. If you want to do something, there's help out there for a reason. We were meant to go through this life getting other people to help us, or we would be, in solitary confinement, all of us, right? So I started then, and I really focused on this dieting mentality. I had the right solution, but I didn't come up with the word mindset dieting until a little bit further in my practice, because this is how I've always trained people. But I'm like, how do I get this across so somebody can understand it? And while it's more of a brain set change, if you actually look up what brain set versus mindset is, and we're changing your brain to get a different result. When you say brain set, people are like, huh? Versus mindset. And they're like, oh, okay, I got it, right?
Right.
So mindset dieting was created through my program. There's other mindset dieting coaches out there, but when I heard it, I was like, okay, that's what I do. And I've transitioned to working with people one-on-one. I do some group programs, and I work with corporations to help them as well to try to change their nutrition and fitness, because we all approach it from that diet standpoint. And ultimately, I have 12 weeks, 6 months to a full 12-month program, depending on where people kind of feel they need to be. And it's a lot of personalized attention. This isn't something like, okay, just give me what I need to do and I'm going to do it. No, you have to really want to help yourself and really want to change yourself, and really put the dieting behind you. Like, you want to stop the dieting and in 10 years from now still feel good in your body and at the weight you want to be. So that's the ultimate goal of what I do.
So when a client comes to you, what do you feel like is the most common stumbling block for them?
The mind going backwards on them. So there's two things. Number one is we believe that 30 days makes a habit. But to be honest, our brain, somewhere between 21 to 28 days, that's the toughest part for it to keep the habit, because we're trying to change a part of our brain. So we have different parts of our brain. We have a reptilian piece of our brain. Most people have heard that word before, right? That controls our habits. It keeps us alive and it wants us to procreate, right? That's the purpose of that part of the brain, okay? So your habits become part of how you stay alive. So if you're a smoker, your habit to smoke is habitual in your brain. That's why when you don't go to smoke, it's hard to cease it, because your reptilian brain is like, no, this is what we do. Even though it's a bad habit for you, as we know, the reptilian brain believes it's good for us because it's normal for us. Okay. So that's very similar to the dieting aspect, right? So if you go into a diet multiple times, your brain goes, oh, okay, we're following this pattern again, but here's where we drop off. Here's where we fall off. Here's where we go back to the other patterns. Okay. Sometimes it's 3 days, sometimes it's 5 days, but we all have that, like, oh, I've done really good. It's okay to eat that.
Yeah.
Right.
Cheat day.
Exactly. So that's one of the top things I think they come with, is that they are making an effort. They consciously want to change, but they keep hitting these walls. And maybe it takes longer. Maybe they do make it past the 30 days. Maybe there's somebody that can go the 90 days and do it, but then there's a drop off. There's a drop off because that's the pattern in their brain. It doesn't matter if it's 3 days, 30 days, 90 days, 100 days, whatever it is, in their brain, there's a drop off and the reptilian piece comes back in. If they've been a chronic dieter, which a lot of people come to see me because they've been chronic dieters and they're no longer getting results.
Right.
I'd say the next really big thing that I see with all my clients is that they want it to be fast and they don't want to work long, right? So when I said I have, 12 months, so like, let's say 12-month, 6-month, and 3-month programs, people are like, well, I know I don't need a 12-month program. But the truth is, you probably do, because there are so many beliefs you have in your head about dieting, about food, about exercise, about fitness, about nutrition, about all those things that will cripple you at some point unless we change them. So there's a lot of that. I have in my current group program right now, a couple have been in there for about 5 months. And they're all, I have them dreaming about what they want to have at the end of this year. And today I asked them what their fears are for it. And they're real fears, of things that won't happen. And if we keep that in us, we'll produce our fear instead of what we're looking for.
Right.
So those are probably the top things I think that people decide. Like, I need a mindset dieting dietitian. I don't want to count my macros for life. I don't want to do those kinds of things. So
yeah, that's not a fun life at all.
agreed.
It's really cool. So there's a lot there. There's a lot there to talk about, really. So when your clients come to you, what's the first thing you do?
Yeah, so the first thing I do is find out as much as I possibly can about them.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of times people are like, okay, at the end of the first session, they're like, well, what do I walk away with doing? I'm like, one small thing that we agreed to, just one goal is all I want you to work on for the first week. A lot of times it's something simple as stop weighing yourself every day. Mm-hmm. Or stop judging your food. So as you eat it, it's like, I've consumed an apple. I did good. I had chicken wings. That was bad. Must punish myself next. Okay. So what I have them do as a typical task, and I mean, feel free for anyone in your audience to do the same, is look at how many times a day you label good versus bad. How many times you do it with your kids? How many times you do it with other people? How many times are you silently judging that, I don't know, Marsha at the lunch table has pizza every day and she's complaining about her weight, right? How many times does that happen? So we're constantly judging that piece of food, right? So ultimately in our first session, what I do is I go through everything with you. What's your history? If you know your family history, what's your dieting history? What do you want your life to look like? And then how do we put it all together? And what we do then is I break it down over the course of weeks that we're going to work together on how we're going to go through all those things to give you the keys to the kingdom to run with it. But the first initial session, we walk away with just one simple, small goal like that. Some people want to do more. They're like, I want to also work out. I'm like, that's great. You can add those. I don't have a problem with that, but that's not our focus. Our focus is this, because I don't want you to overwhelm yourself. Everybody thinks when they do a diet, they got to change 12 things at a time. And that's right. Immediately how we fail.
That's it. Yeah, that's exactly how you fail. That's really cool. I have like 3 thoughts there. I'm not the greatest. So what, that was a different. Oh yeah. So mindset dieting is more than just mindset dieting. It's really mindset. I mean, like, I can see how someone working with you their mind wouldn't just change around their food. If you're having them judge or having them look at what they're judging other than food during the day, that must change other parts of their life too.
Yeah, so they can use a lot of the skills and techniques that I teach them to improve other areas of their life, which is why somebody once said, so you're not just a dietitian, you're a life coach. I was like, well, I don't have a certification to be a life coach, right. So I don't utilize that term life coach. However, it's something I've contemplated because it does transfer over in those things, just like technically, doing certain mindset things for your business can filter over to your diet. But the difference is that it's where your focus is, right? So if you're focused on growing your business, your focus is not, you can't focus equally on both tasks 100% of the time. Right. So when people come to me, it's because they know that this is the piece that's missing, or they've worked on their business is doing pretty good, or they have a, good steady job or whatever it is. And they process that all the other things in life are lacking because of this, right? They don't have the energy to keep up with things. They don't have the energy to keep up with their travel or with their business or with their kids or with their families or with the things that they want to do. They're noticing, that lack of energy, or they're noticing the lack of confidence, or they're noticing how many times they look in the mirror and say, oh, I look ugly today. Or they notice how many times they're saying, this is just too tight, right? Like, right. Oh, I don't like the way I feel. Or, it's actually distracting them from things. When we go out to restaurants, it's like, okay, suck in. Okay. All right. Hopefully nobody's noticing, I probably shouldn't eat that chip because I'll feel bad. And then maybe they do drink the margarita and it loosens them up so they don't think about it. But then the next day, the massive guilt comes, like, I shouldn't have done any of that. Right. So that's kind of the top, cycle reasons of things that kind of go through people's heads, or why, they choose to do this. And could it tie into both, business or mindset and all those things? Heck yeah. I mean, it's a total transformation, because once you learn the skill, you can apply it in any direction. But this one is more geared towards a nutrition fitness, because somebody wants to better their health.
Yeah. So it's true. It's so true. You mentioning that, like, your weight, your body image affects so much about your life. Like, some people not that I would know this, focus really hard on it and like they can ruin parts of their life because they're not thinking about what's going on. They're thinking about how they look.
Exactly. It's completely true. Yeah. You know, the detrimental thing is that it doesn't just affect them, it affects other people around them, and it affects kids, it affects their husband, it affects their relationships. They just don't see it, right? They don't see it. Well, it's not affecting them. Sure it is. I mean, it is, because if you're lacking the confidence and self-love, in some way you're trying to find that externally, right? You're trying to find all of that externally, and you're basing it on the scale, right? Scales down, my self-worth is up, we're really good. The scale goes up, my self-worth isn't up, so now I need to find the love somewhere else. And that cycling can hurt lots of relationships. It can hurt friendships, it can hurt business relationships, it can hurt lots of things that people just don't pay attention to because they don't see their own change in attitude, because it's so normal, it's so reptilian to them that they don't see the difference on the outside.
That's so true. So Leslie, tell me how people can get in touch with you if they would like to.
Yeah, of course. So since we're on Facebook, I will say that I have a group. It's called Weight Loss and Wellbeing for High Performers. I go in there at least once or twice a week and go live. But you can also find me on any platform. Leslie Urbas is typically my name, but Facebook is Leslie Fiala Urbas. And my website is also leslieUrbas.com. So anything with my name.
Perfect. Okay, well, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom here and helping people understand more about why they eat what they eat and what needs to actually change in order for them to make a difference. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it, and I appreciate what you do.
Thank you so much. Everybody else out there, just remember, everyone has a tale to tell, so what is yours?